You're listening to the Sex Addicts Recovery Podcast, a place for sex addicts to share their experiences of recovery, to help break the stigma, myths, and misconceptions of sex addiction. This podcast may contain topics of sexuality, sexual trauma, dysfunction, or other things that may be triggering, so listener discretion is advised. Hello, and welcome to the Sex Addicts Recovery Podcast. My name is Jason, I'm a sex addict, and I will be your podcast host for today. How's it going, everyone? Welcome to episode 114 of the Sex Addicts Recovery Podcast. This week, I am grateful to be sharing part 2 of the quarterly SAA and COSA Speaker Meeting, and this one will feature SAA speaker Jim W. from San Francisco. Since I'm just getting over a cold and trying to get this episode out in a timely manner, I'm going to be making the intro and outro short. I had originally intended to read quite a few listener emails and lots of recovery music coming from suggestions from listeners. But I think I'm going to hold on to most of those for the next few episodes and keep this one as short as possible so I can get this out today as I'm recording. In Jim's share, he talked about a lot of different recovery literature, a lot from the Big Book and the 12 and 12, and I thought about taking some readings from those for the beginning of this episode, but I did key in on a reading from the SAA Green Book around sponsorship, and I wanted to read a little bit more about what he shared. And this comes from the SAA Green Book, the section Sponsorship on page 13. I will be reading from pages 13 and 14. I believe I've read the first paragraph here on another episode of the podcast, so I'm just going to read a couple of sentences from that, and then I'm going to skip down a bit. One of the most vital aspects of the program is sponsorship. A sponsor is a person in the fellowship who acts as a guide to working the program of SAA, a fellow addict that we can rely on for support. Our sponsor can help explain program fundamentals such as how to define our sexual sobriety. Most importantly, sponsors guide us through the 12 steps. Skipping down a paragraph. As new members, we are encouraged to get a sponsor as soon as we can. Many of us ask someone to be our sponsor who has shared things in meetings that helped us or inspired us through example. We may have temporary sponsors until we get to know people better. It is recommended that we do not enter into a sponsorship relationship with anyone we are attracted to sexually, since that might compromise the trust and safety we all need. If someone declines to sponsor us, we need not take it personally. We simply ask someone else. Members are also free to change sponsors. The important thing is to have and use one, because we can't keep trying to solve problems by ourselves. Sometimes it is hard to find a sponsor who has more experience in SAA than we have. This is often the case when the meetings in an area are fairly new. There are solutions to this problem. We can contact a member of the program with more experience who attends a different SAA meeting. We can maintain a long-distance sponsoring relationship by phone, email, or letter. We may consider entering into a co-sponsorship relationship with a program friend for mutual support. We can also ask a person who may have less experience in SAA but has experience working recovery in another fellowship. And it's that last line that Jim talked about in his share. So yeah, I really wanted to have a little bit more of the context of the part in the Green Book that came from. And now, without further ado, here is Jim W.'s share from the quarterly SAA and COSA Speaker Meeting that happened this past November. I hope you enjoy it.
I love that lady. Recording in progress. My name's Jim, and I'm a sex addict. And I'm here because my way didn't work. My SAA sobriety date is November 1st, 21. So I saw on the website, most speakers have more than 5 years. That's not me. That's not what you get tonight. So you can leave if you want. Yeah, thanks, Michael. Yeah, my second SAA sponsor said your AA credits don't transfer. And I'm like, oh my goodness. So yeah, thank you. Thanks, Michael, for the invitation. Thank you, Julie, for your share. Linda, who's the other person? Cindy. Yeah, thank you. And welcome if there's any newcomers, welcome. Yeah, we meet frequently so newcomers can find us. Let me see. Yeah, let me just my sobriety date on the screen is my AA sobriety date. That's also so my SAA sobriety date is when I started coming to SAA. I didn't take any fronts, but my sexual addiction, that obsession and compulsion, was removed from me by God when God removed the alcohol and drugs in 2012. I've not acted out, which means bookstores, bathhouses, cruising parks, anonymous sex. What else? I can't remember all my list, but yeah, the obsession and compulsion was removed from me then. I did not remove it. And I started coming to SAA 2 years ago. Well, first of all, my AA sponsor just, we meet every week, and he started asking me, I think a decent sponsor should ask, what's going on? How can I help you? It's either romance, finance. And I never heard the third one because the first two pissed me off. And I'm like, oh my God. And so yeah, and then I think, and he again always asking me, do you have your eye on anyone? And just kind of, if we progress, then these things come up, they're presented to us. And so I haven't been with another human being in 11 years sexually, and I don't know. That didn't happen by me. Some people in their first step shares, and this person at the meeting yesterday in Berkeley, they mentioned like a financial estimate, I think yesterday they said they spent like over $250,000. And right. So it's not, my sexual addiction was anonymous and many people every day. And so just to be conservative, and men only, but it's probably, and this isn't a conquest sort of thing. It's just to tell you that, 8 or 10,000 different sexual partners, over a 30-year period. And so I've been in avoidance, as some people call it, anorexia. So I came to SAA to get closer to God and have a new experience with myself, with God, and with sex, and the steps. And I think it's happening. Well, I think it's happening. So I'm grateful to be here. Let me start at the beginning. From not always, but I guess around 5 or 6. I knew that I was attracted to the male anatomy, right? And was very curious. And I had a father and an older brother, so I was always trying to get a little look, at that age. And aside from, let's see, I'm going to kind of go all around here, but there were a few incidents too that kind of set up the framework of my the way I perceived life, not just sex, but life. Also at 5, I found out that we died, and it was really rude. I thought I was having a good time up till then, and then like, what? This ends? My brain just kind of would perceive these things, and that computer that's God given decided that everything ends. Everything ends. Why bother? And I would continue that attitude for a long time. And so in second grade, I met a friend, and at his house, we snuck into his parents' bedroom and lifted the mattress, and there was pornography and other things. And so my brain at 8 years old was, I was thrilled, I was excited, I was nervous and scared, right? Like, where are the parents? Are we going to get caught? And I remember thinking at 8 years old, this is hidden. It's under the bed. It's not out on the coffee table, right? So it's wrong. This is bad. And that really imprinted on my brain, right? The sex is bad. It's hidden. And also, so then, right, because I've discovered pornography, I started looking for, I found pornography in my father's, one of his suit jackets in the back of his closet. And every now and then I would forget to carry it back to that place. And guess what? I knew what to do. I put it under my mattress, and someone, my mother or my father, would have gotten it and removed it. And I thought, they're not talking to me about this. I had this language in my head as a kid, right? It wasn't like, oh, whoops. It was like, they're not talking to me about this. I don't know if I had the word shame in my vocabulary at 8 or 9, maybe, but that's what I thought. They can't talk to me about it. It seems to be everybody's doing it, but we're not talking about it. So it's bad and it's wrong and it's a thing to be hidden. So yeah, so as the years progressed, so did my, again, as a kid, I just thought it was curiosity. In junior high, we moved to a new neighborhood. So there was construction going on. And I pursued adult men in tech. I grew up in Texas. And on 3 or 4 occasions, things happened, right? Not that it wasn't illegal, right, or wrong. I'm not saying that, but I was the pursuer. I wasn't pursued by them at all. I went looking for it, and so all this kid in me was so nervous. I don't have hair anymore, but I had a lot of hair, and in the late 70s, perms were popular. My mother carried me to Montgomery Ward, beauty salon or what the hell ever. And they gave me a perm and destroyed my hair. It was just like, and I just hated myself. And there's a picture of me. I've got like this brown velour sweater on, and I don't know who took it, but I'm just like, that just described me at that age. Just like, this is so unfair, like why? And my home life was pretty decent. Now, if you'd asked me when I was a kid, I would have said something otherwise, but my father yelled a lot, never hit us, but pretty good provided, my mother's definitely, definitely codependent, and she was my higher power for a long time, so in high school, I found alcohol, and I'm not here. I know this is not an AA meeting, but alcohol is part of my story. So I will mix that into my story. And alcohol was a miracle because, again, before that, I was so nervous, right? I had secrets already that was like 1981. I was like 14, 15 years old. And I was nervous. That hair of mine, I didn't want it to move. So I was just always not moving my neck. And I was so worried and nervous about what people thought about me. What I've learned since in recovery is what I think you're thinking about me is what I'm thinking about me. I don't know what you're thinking about me. It's me. It's my thoughts. I'm the one that's having the thought about whatever I think you're thinking. Anyway, getting a little confusing. It's like, it's me. It's the calls coming from inside the house, right? And so that alcohol, and that's the time I thought that I got taller. Here's what I thought happened. I thought I got taller and my hair got straighter and my voice got deeper, my little gay Texas voice. And none of that happened. But what happened is the alcohol sedated my self-obsession, right? That self-centeredness and worrying about what people thought about me. And my shoulders dropped, and I started dancing and talking to people, the popular people, and this was monumental for me. Right now, I could be in this world and kind of have fun, and party, and so yeah, I sort of did that for a while. I went to college for 1 year. I lived in the dorm. That's what I learned in college is where the gay bars were. I learned about poppers. I learned about bathhouses. I learned where the cruising area was. That was my college. I made like a 1.7 GPA, at the end of the year. I thought that was good because I didn't even show up for finals, So yeah, that was my experience with college. And just, the combination of my alcoholism and my sex addiction was like, just, yeah, I don't even know that I was in it 100%. I couldn't be turned away from it. So move along here. In 1990, in 89, my friend Camille got sober in AA, and that was my introduction to recovery, right? Like what? Her whole family was in AA, and I'm like, how sad for Camille. They got her, I didn't know, but her whole family, they got her, bless her heart. And so she was a great example of what's offered to us in the literature, right? Like no lectures, we don't diagnose here. It's self-diagnosis. And she was really great about that with me. If I had questions, she answered. And so I got to AA in 1990 and I was sober for 3 years. I didn't have a drink for 3 years. I worked up to step 5 and I stopped working the steps after step 5, but my sex addiction didn't stop. And I was out every night, 10, 15 or more partners. And I felt guilt and shame, and I couldn't get out of that. I'd go to meetings, and like the literature says, opinions, so many different opinions. And, we don't talk about that here. People were dying from AIDS in the early 90s at my home group. So I got, you're going to die. I got, good for you. Right on. Yeah. I wasn't ready to stop then. And what happened is I put alcohol in my body. Like the AA literature says, are we sure to drink now about sex? This is all in now about sex, right? It's not a theory. It's based on fact out of our experience. And that was my experience. And so all of my diseases, as a triple, what do they call that? Like a actress, singer, and a dancer, triple threat. I had, alcohol, drugs, and sex. And we moved to San Francisco, right? And I didn't move here thinking as a geographic, like thinking it's going to be different or better. I'm going to be different. I moved here to just get on with it. I had a lot of guilt and shame, right? I had so much guilt and shame. So I moved where I needed to go, where nobody knew my name, the opposite of that Cheers song. And I want to go where nobody knows my name. That was what my addiction needed. And so for 18 years, always in and out of Alcoholics Anonymous. I went to SAA for 3 months back, I think in 1996 or 97, went to the Happy Valley retreat. And Jerry, I don't know anyway, Jerry was my sponsor. And I couldn't or wouldn't get sober, and my disease progressed to intravenous drug use. And so I'm going to move it along here. So 9 months before 2012, my father died of cancer. And, this father that I hated for such a long time, just because he yelled at me, But I've learned in AA and SAA, that my father was the perfect father for me. He was the perfect father for me. It's what God gave me. And somehow I was able to get home for that and show up. And 9 months later, I'm pointing down the hall. That's what that means. I live in the same house I nearly died in, right? You don't have to actually move away. That might be helpful, but right. My addiction's in me. It's not in the place. That's what I've discovered. It's not in my bedroom. It's centered in my mind. And so in 2012, I was dying. In 2012, I was dying in my bedroom, and my body was, I couldn't hook up with people anymore. It's sex addiction, right? I couldn't hook up with people anymore because nothing was happening. They were kicking me out of their places. Nobody was telling me, keep coming back. Get out of here. Don't ever come back. Get out of here. That was the progression. I was so angry, and life was to be endured. Not today, not again. Please, not today. And I would put the substance in my body. My sex addiction was, I don't know if it was reduced to like a small screen on the phone. I didn't know that you could watch porn on the phone back 12 years ago. So I just watched images, and I would be, I would 12, 15 hours, I would injure myself. My eyes would swell up, and I couldn't see. And like 8 years, I went to the emergency room that year, and just, so what happened is that I started praying. I thought I was going to die, right? We are more than 100 men and women who've recovered from a seemingly hopeless condition of the body and the mind, even in SAA, right? And it seems hopeless. It seemed hopeless, but it wasn't actually hopeless. But I thought I was going to die, and I just started saying this prayer. And so for me, God got me sober when God was ready, and I was finally ready. So my soul was saying, help, even though it was also like, this is the end, And so that's when I got to the other program and got sober, and the obsession was lifted from me. I didn't do that on my own. An act of providence took my sexual obsession from me, which allowed me to stay sober, get sober and stay sober with alcohol and drugs. There's a description, I think, in the 12 and 12 of the steps the 12 steps are a set of principles, spiritual in nature, which if practiced as a way of life can expel the obsession and allow the sufferer, a happy and useful life. I totally paraphrase the shit out of that, but that's what's on offer here, right? Useful. I can be useful. So let me jump to 2 years ago. Yeah, I came to SAA to get closer to God, and to, one of my friends relapsed around sex. He had a partner, but he'd been sober 7 years, and he was out and about and met a couple that from his past, and he was in a place where he was not spiritually fit, and he went home with them because it felt they like, what, they want me, like there's an attraction. It was appealing to him, and when they pulled out the drugs, he was not able to say no. And so I was starting to fear that, right? I know fears aren't really, fears are imagined, fears are based on the past, false events appearing real, But so I started to, maybe intellectually, I knew that I could know or trust that the fear was, if I have sex again, it's going to be like taking a drink, right? I'm going to feed the beast, and it's going to start the whole obsession over. I guess maybe I still have that fear. It's lessened. But that was my fear. And I definitely don't want to die with a needle in my arm. I don't want to die from that. So that and my sponsor's sort of nudge here. I think my sponsor went to SLAA for, he does his rounds in different programs like every now and then. And so he wasn't telling me, right? That's what I love about my AA sponsor, is that it's just suggestions. How about you try this? And so what was happening is I was ready to fire my sponsor. Like, I don't need this. You don't need this. He's, how come he brings us up every damn week? And so that reaction to that was like, shit, there's something here. There's something here. If I'm having this resistance and this kind of vitriol reaction, then it needs to be looked into. So I arrived at, I don't know where maybe Saturday morning was my first meeting. My home group is the 8:15 Saturday morning meeting on, I believe it's Page Street in person. And I love that group. Yeah, around 6 months, somehow these people made me the secretary. And I love the fellowship. I missed that from my earlier days in AA. We would go out to coffee. Back then, everybody would smoke and just pull like 20 tables together and stay for 3 hours. And they're like, get out. They would kick us out because we didn't tip. But anyway, I think the group of people, we tip at the grind. There's like 20 of us. I love that. And it's like the fellowship after the group. And that's helping too. I'm kind of getting at a loss for words. So what I was like, what happened, and what am I like now? And according to me, I always love that. And then they're going to tell us what they're like now, according to me. Maybe I should have a Tom or Michael tell you how I am. Anyway, I'm really grateful. I love the steps getting closer to God. I love this. What's really helping me, I think, is sponsoring an SAA, because it's that thing of it's like what I'm going through the steps with the sponsees in SAA, and what the literature is suggesting to me, and I'm suggesting to them. It's like, oh shit, am I doing it right? So that's the thing that's like getting me, like, oh my gosh, because a lot. Well, I don't know if any of them are here, but a lot of them don't really. It's like, can I take to the suggestions? That's part of the 12th step, right? It's not whether it's received or not. It's we try to carry the message, and in trying to carry the message, that's me doing my 12th step, which keeps me sober, and I love it. Just hearing the forgiveness comes, as a result of hearing these inventories, right? I don't just forgive myself. It's sort of like the 11th step. It's like in listening to someone across the table from me that's like me or similar to me, forgiveness comes to me, right? And not regret the past, nor to shut the door on it. I'm really actually learning to love my past. Like, who's saying this? Like, what a trip. Like, Yeah, to love my past. I volunteer at the Castro Country Club here in San Francisco on Wednesday mornings, and it's a recovery place. And anyway, Wednesday morning, 6:45 to 10:30. Right? You'd think nobody'd be there, but the last month or so, it's been it's like a gay bar, a sober gay bar, and I don't like it, and I stop it. But I'm not saying that, but it's just me. It's well, my co-partner is my age, but the other ones are like 20, 30 years younger. And it's so I'm getting to see myself and just keep my mouth shut because I want to go, people still do that, right? The things they're saying. Like, when you do something, you think the world does it. And then when you stop, you think everybody else stops, but that's not true. And so it's like, I'm just, leave them alone, Jim, let them have their fun. Or I don't know if they're having fun, but maybe. And so again, that's so opposite of how we're kind of taught. Like, let me get mine, let me love me, let me forgive me. And then what's offered here is so seemingly backwards, but I'm grateful for it. And my first sponsee, I'm just rambling on here, is I hope some of you are still awake. My first sponsee, he came to the meeting, our morning meeting. He sat in the circle and he let the group know that he had asked over 10 people to sponsor him, and they all said no, right? And sometimes that happens, right? It's in one of the preambles, or you may not be successful in your first one, so be patient. But 10 people, he had asked, and then after the meeting, someone with some time walked up to him and said, "Good luck," and it really pissed me off. And I'm like, "Good luck." The guy says he can't. And so I said, "You know what? I'm it. I'm going to help you." I think I had 6 or 7 months, and I don't think my sponsor really wanted me to sponsor anybody, but God hooked us up, and then I love referring to the literature, right? Like if I'm in a courtroom or something, like backing it up, because it says in here, we can also ask a person being a sponsor who may have less experience in SAA, but has experience working, recovering in another fellowship. This is in the Green Book of Sex Addicts Anonymous. So I love that because it reminded me of, we're not professionals here, right? We're not psychiatrists. Well, some of you maybe, but it's one addict helping another. And if I'm armed with the facts, my experience, and then the literature and a higher power, that's it. That's all that's needed, right? I love that. And I love that experience. And that person and myself are still sober. And so let me see if I have anything else to say about what it's like now. How much time? I'm sweating here.
3 minutes.
Oh, be quiet, Tom. No crosstalk.
She put up 3 fingers.
You did? I didn't see them. Can we mute him? I'm exhausted. I hung out with Tom and Evan and Michael yesterday for about 45 hours. I don't know how long it was, but that's part of sobriety, having a host of friends. A host, I guess, is 3 or 4. I don't know how many a host is, but having fun and being alive. My word is good. I show up where I say I'm going to show up. That wasn't me before. Yeah, I get to be a family member. I get to be there for my 85-year-old mom. Well, she's in Texas, but I'm going to go see her next month. She's got dementia, and yeah. So I was going to say there's no excuse to act out. There's a lot of excuses to act out. But the gift, I've been graced with sobriety, right? And, I don't want to fall for the trivial excuse. It doesn't seem trivial. It seems like a really good excuse, but I'm grateful. Let me say this in closing. If there's anybody new here, or you're struggling, we can get freedom from this obsession, right? It's promised to us in the literature, right? In step 10, it says we're no longer fighting. I haven't had to wake up in a long time going, I'm not going to do this. I can't do this anymore. Not today. I don't even really make the choice to not act out every day. It's not really, that doesn't come to me. What I have a problem with today is still sort of my thinking, which precedes the acting out, right? The insanity. And then I act out, right? My roommates, it's because of my mom, I know I'm powerless over that thing of really trying to control people around me. The tiny stuff is like, I got my ticket book out, it's up, and I'm just looking to write your ticket. And so that's up. And so thank you, God, for that opportunity. And That's got to be my time. Right, Tom? Okay. Yeah, I hope I help somebody. You've helped me, and yeah, thank you.
Many thanks to Jim and Tom there for chiming in there at the end. Such a fantastic share. So grateful to be able to share that here on the podcast. So like I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, I have gotten quite a few emails over the past month or so, and I'm trying to get caught up on all of those. A lot of them are sharing music that has helped them in their recovery, and I wanted to share those on the podcast, and there are quite a few there, so I'm going to be spreading these out over the next few episodes. And I'm also going to be saving some YouTube comments for another episode. There's one in depth that I want to talk about, but just know that that is coming up on a future episode. Many of the emails that I've received over the past few weeks have been offers to be guests on the podcast, and I will be starting to schedule new recordings in January. Got quite a few recordings from my noon meeting that I'm going to be sharing on future episodes, as well as the Joe and Charlie episode that I've been talking about on step 2. So those are coming up. And now on to the emails. The first one that I wanted to read does relate to the sponsorship reading that I read at the beginning, talking about co-sponsorship. And again, I will be abbreviating the names to protect anonymity. And it says, "Hi, my name is B, and I'm a sex addict. I live in North Mississippi, and I found your podcast the 1st of November. I started with episode 1 and just finished episode 57. Each episode has spoken to me and has helped me a lot. I've started to go to counseling sessions along with finding a meeting close to me, 45 minutes or so. So I go once a week, and I've been reading the Green Book. I have a sponsor, and we are co-sponsoring each other and doing check-ins on each other. We are starting on the steps after the new year, but as of now, I am 10 weeks sober with the help of God, listening to your podcast, counseling, and group. I started journaling last night by listing my experiences from the time I was 8 until now at 56. 3 years ago, I was caught, and my problems with porn, attempts to hire prostitutes, and other things were exposed when my now ex-wife got my phone. It was actually the best thing that happened, getting caught. Jason, I just wanted to thank you and would welcome your call. And the rest has more personal information, so I will close it out. It says, thanks, B. And you're very welcome. And yes, I will be giving you a call when I can. So yeah, thank you so much for writing in. This one just came in yesterday. The other one that I wanted to highlight this week comes from someone who also had some music suggestions, but I'm going to save those emails for an upcoming episode. But one that he wrote just a few days ago says, "Thanks for sharing your podcast. I am almost at year 2 in SAA and really thankful to my group in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. Here is a poem you can share on the podcast if you think it would help. Signed, R." And the poem is called It Waits. So this is the first time I've read a poem here on the podcast. This is really awesome. It waits. It wasn't my problem. It was my solution. On lonely days, it soothed. In stress, it caressed. Always there. It never turned me down. I'll never use again, I'd say. After, the heavy wet shame cloaked, head held low. My neck hurt. No one ever smelled it on my breath. Even under stage lights, undetected. My veins were clear. My walk looked straight. The perfect high. Now clean. It waits. Promising the same comfort, but I long for what it promises, even though I know. Weeds have grown long, the path shut. Saplings now small trees, and yet, just beyond, it waits. Oh, so powerful. That's awesome. Yeah, I thank you so much for writing in. And yes, I will get to your other emails and music on the next episode. But yeah, thank you so much. And like always, I did want to close out with a bit of recovery music. I was just watching Santa Claus is Coming to Town, the Rankin Bass stop motion film from 1970, and it has a song called Put One Foot in Front of the Other, and this features Mickey Rooney. As I was watching it, it is such a recovery message. So I did want to play a little bit of that here on the podcast.
I really am a mean and despicable creature at heart, you know. It's so difficult to really change.
Difficult? Why, look here. Changing from bad to good's as easy as taking your first step. Put one foot in front of the other, and soon you'll be walking across the floor. Put one foot in front of the other, and soon you'll be walking out the door.
Yeah, I love this one. It features Fred Astaire, Mickey Rooney, Paul Frees, a lot of the classic voices there. And I watch those every year since I was a kid. The other one that I wanted to play should be, as no surprise, comes from my favorite new band, Heilung. And they just performed in Los Angeles, and while they were in Los Angeles, they also performed at the Game Awards, where they are doing music for the Hellblade 2 Senua's Saga video game coming out sometime next year. And they performed a brand new song called Scythe. And I have been just playing this over and over. It's too short for my liking. It's only about 2 minutes and 45 seconds, but so looking forward to hearing the soundtrack for this game. I'm not a gamer, but I love watching videos on YouTube of the Senua's Saga game and the sequel that has been in the works for many, many years. So knowing Heilung has been contributing to the soundtrack has gotten me super excited, but seeing this video and hearing the song has just been so essential to me keeping a positive outlook when I'm feeling low. So anyway, here is Heilung with the song Scythe. So awesome. And I can't wait to hear more. And like always, I will be leaving the YouTube links for any music shared in the episode in the show notes or the description of the episode. So with that, I'm going to close out this episode. Like I mentioned, I've gotten a lot of new email, but if you wish to leave feedback for the podcast, you can email us at feedback@sexaddictsrecoverypod.com, and I'd be happy to read that on a future episode. If you have any questions about the program of SAA, the podcast, or if you want to be a guest on a future episode, you can always email me directly at jason@sexaddictsrecoverypod.com. Like I mentioned, I do have a few Experience, Strength, and Hope recordings from the noon Zoom room that I attend, and we'll also be recording another first step to be shared on the podcast in January. And the Joe and Charlie episode that I want to put out on step 2 will take a little bit more in producing, so I'm hoping to put that one out either at the end of December or the beginning of January, but that should be the next episode. And I thank you all for tuning into this one. And as always, keep coming back. The views and opinions contained in the Sex Addicts Recovery Podcast are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect those of the Bay Area Intergroup or the ISO of SAA.